Did you know that some NBA players have gone to jail for the most ridiculous reasons? You won't believe some of the stories we have for you today. Today we're dwelling into the shocking cases of NBA players who found themselves behind bars for some incredibly stupid reasons. From illegal racing to carrying loaded guns in public, we'll be covering it all in this video. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be amazed at these unbelievable stories. Stick around until the end because we've saved the craziest stories for last. You don't want to miss it. Get ready to learn about some of the most outrageous things NBA players have done and how it landed them in jail. So what happens when these 250-pound, 7-foot-tall dudes lose control? Let's take a look at Joakim Noah first. Joakim Noah. If you were forced to pick an NBA player who's been arrested for marijuana possession at gunpoint, you might think it's a bizarre scenario, but you'd probably go with Joakim Noah, right? And you'd be right. The man behind the iconic man bun exudes a laid-back personality, but in 2008 he found himself in a bit of trouble with the law. Noah was arrested in Gainesville, Florida for marijuana possession and public intoxication after officers caught him drinking alcohol and carrying weed in his pocket. At the time, he faced the possibility of 6 months behind bars, which seems ridiculous considering the growing acceptance and legalization of marijuana. Andre Blanche. It's not honest to accumulate several legal issues, including driving without a license and soliciting prostitution. But what's even more perplexing, J.R. Smith. Let's talk about J.R. Smith, the man who's known for his emotional outbursts and memorable antics both on and off the court. After winning his first NBA championship, the Cleveland Cavaliers guard gave an emotional speech about his parents' support. But given his troubled past, some believed he was exploiting the situation. And boy has J.R. Smith been in trouble with the law before. He's been arrested 4 times in his career, narrowly avoiding vehicular manslaughter charges in 2007 after a tragic accident that claimed his friend's life. He was also charged with assault, property destruction, and disturbing the peace just 5 months later. Smith managed to stay out of trouble for the next 4 years until he was arrested in Miami Beach for driving an unlicensed scooter. Oh, and let's not forget the 4th charge against him: failure to appear in court. Allen Iverson. If you're a fan of basketball, then you definitely know who Allen Iverson is. He was a legendary player with an unforgettable style both on and off the court. But did you know that he actually went to jail not once but twice? That's right. Despite his incredible talent and success, Iverson found himself in trouble with the law for some pretty silly reasons. From marijuana possession to assault charges, Iverson's off-court antics were just as infamous as his basketball skills. And in this video, we'll take a closer look at his run-ins with the law, as well as the events that led up to them. So get ready to hear some wild stories about one of the greatest players of all time. Gary Payton. Gary Payton is a name that's synonymous with basketball greatness. The former Seattle Supersonic and Hall of Famer is known for his skills on the court, including winning an NBA championship with the Miami Heat in 2006. But did you know that Payton's off-court antics also made headlines during his time in the league? In 2003, Payton and 2 of his teammates were arrested for assault, causing bodily harm outside of a Toronto strip club. And just a year later, he was arrested for DUI in San Diego. Despite these setbacks, Payton's legacy as one of the greatest point guards in NBA's history remains intact. Jason Kidd. Contrasting with Payton's clean record, Jason Kidd's journey to championship victory was marred by run-ins with the law. The first occurred in 1995 when he was just 21 and playing for the Dallas Mavericks, charged with assault. The second incident was 6 years later, when he was with the Phoenix Suns and arrested for domestic abuse after allegedly punching his wife, Joanna Kidd, during an argument over feeding their toddler. She sustained a cut in her mouth and a swollen lip. Fast forward to 2012 and Kidd found himself in trouble once again, this time after a drunken driving incident in his Cadillac Escalade. The collision with a telephone pole resulted in minor injuries, but it was emblematic of his tumultuous time with the New York Knicks. Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas, a former NBA superstar, saw his career take a sharp downturn when he was apprehended in 2010 for possession of an unregistered firearm. But it wasn't just the gravity of the crime that earned him notoriety. It was the disturbing context in which it occurred. In a shocking turn of events, Arenas had brandished an unloaded gun at his teammate Javaris Critterton in the Washington Wizards locker room, all due to a gambling debt. Despite his tremendous talent on the court, Arenas' reputation would forever be tied to this incident that resulted in his suspension for the rest of the 2009 and 10 season. It wasn't the first time Arenas had run into trouble with the law, having been arrested twice before for gun-related charges and disobeying police orders. In 2006, Arenas also made headlines when he refused to leave the streets after a teammate was apprehended for jaywalking. He staunchly stood by his teammates, declaring that basketball was no longer just a game to him, but a part of his identity as a member of the Wizards. Unfortunately, this show of solidarity was overshadowed by his later missteps, and his once promising career came to a premature end. Matt Barnes. Although Matt Barnes didn't make the list, his troubles off the court come as no surprise, especially after his infamous Derek Fisher incident. When Fisher got romantically involved with Barnes' estranged wife, Barnes allegedly drove 95 miles with the intention of confronting Fisher physically. But this wasn't Barnes' first brush with the law. He had previously been charged with domestic violence in 2010 after a 9/11 call brought police to his home. And just 2 years later, he was arrested again for driving with a suspended license and putting law enforcement at risk. Despite the seemingly harmless nature of his mugshot, it remains one of the most unforgettable moments in NBA player arrest history. Greg Oden. Despite being a highly anticipated draft pick, Greg Oden's career was plagued by a series of unfortunate events that left him out of the game for 3 years. In his short-lived comeback with the Miami Heat in 2013 and 14, he lasted only 23 games before throwing in the towel. However, that was not the end of Oden's troubles. He made headlines again when he was charged with battery for allegedly punching his ex-girlfriend in the face just a few months later. The incident, which left the woman with a swollen and bloody face, led to Oden being placed on probation for 909 days and required to undergo domestic violence and alcoholism counseling for 26 weeks. Despite being remembered as one of the worst draft picks in history, Greg Oden's tumultuous journey continues to be a cautionary tale about the perils of fame and fortune. Dante Cunningham. Dante Cunningham, a former second-round pick of the Portland Trail Blazers, had a resume that boasts a lengthy list of teams, including the Portland Trail Blazers, Charlotte Hornets, Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans, and Minnesota Timberwolves, among others. But while his career may be notable, his off-court antics have been even more memorable. In April 2011, Cunningham's wild night on the streets resulted in an arrest for speeding, reckless driving, and possession of a small amount of marijuana. Adding to the drama, a loaded BB gun was also found in his possession. Things only got worse in 2014 when Cunningham was playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was arrested for assaulting and strangling his girlfriend for 20 seconds. And just a few days later, he was arrested again for violating a protection order by sending threatening texts to a woman in question. Despite these troubling incidents, Cunningham managed to stay out of trouble after moving to New Orleans 3 years ago, which is surprising given his history. While his resume on the court may be impressive, his off-court behavior has been anything but. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Don't forget to drop a comment down below, folks. And hey, thanks a bunch for joining us today. Make sure to give that like button a satisfying smash. Hit that subscribe button for more top NBA content, and don't forget to ring the notification bell to stay up to date. Catch you all in the next one.